What are the non-negotiables for 2E learners in different environments? And you may see that there are 5 environments in this poster. I'm just going to start with anyone because they're all equally important. In terms of the intellectual piece, what needs to be in the learning environment for 2E learners is that the tasks are authentic and meaningful and have real-world application. When tasks are engaging, students kind of forget to resist or avoid because they love what they're learning. And it's helpful for students to really show what they know and dive in, deep dives. So they have to have options, and that leads us to the creative section. They have to have options about ways to access the curriculum, maybe having 2 books to read, or an option between the 2 books to read, or it could be listening to a video or an audio of an interview before diving into what's learned so they see a real-life application. So students who have choice are much more engaged. And when the intellectual or cognitive level is challenging and they have creative choice, then students are more willing to take the support that they need for their executive functioning skills and for their slower processing speed skills, which again are sometimes confusing for individuals because they both impact each other. The next area that I'll talk about, I'm going to skip over to social. In the classroom, whether whether it's a whole class or a small group or paired learning, students need to feel a sense of belonging, and they need to know what their role is as social contributors to a group. So it might be that one student is coming to a group and has the role of a researcher, and they're coming in with information that they found in another source. Another student might be someone who is a practical manager and is going to remember the due dates. Another student might be the note taker, not likely the one with slow processing speed skills. But this is why it's good to know who's who, because then we know what to rely on, and we want to be able to rely on skills that are intact and abilities that are intact. So teachers establish rapport, teachers and students in social learning environments, because everything is social in a classroom. That kind of environment, the teacher setting the tone, and the teacher shows respect for the student. And 2E students need to feel that respect and that connection and that rapport. If that's missing and can't be repaired, or it never was established, then it's even harder for a student with slow processing speed to be able to write a response because of all of the issues related to relationship with the teacher. The next environment we'll talk about is emotional. Students need to know that there's a safe, we call it psychologically safe environment, where they can express their joy in learning. And a lot of kids hide that depending on the environment that they're in, but also that it's safe to make mistakes, that mistakes are welcome. And for students with slow processing speed, they really feel, many feel that it's just known, it's so obvious, that their rate of learning isn't like others. And so they can be very sensitive and compare themselves to others. And that kind of comparison isn't helpful and it isn't healthy, because we'll all do things different ways and still get to the end. So having a culture of acceptance and being able to talk about skills in a very clean and clear way enables students to gain self-confidence despite weak areas, because there's also a focus on these areas of cognitive superior skills. And then the 5th environment, I'm really whipping through these, but the 5th environment has to do with what needs to be in place, what's non-negotiable for some learners. And that would include allowing movement. Movement is allowed for 2E students to engage in learning. And so that might mean where they sit. And where they sit might impact their processing speed. So note the child's posture. Note if there are 2 elbows on the table. Note if they're crouched over their keyboard. Note if the lighting is good enough. Note if the student is distractible. So, these are all really important aspects. And if we look at processing speed skills, I think if a student had slow processing speed skills, it's going to show up in almost every one of these environments, isn't it? So that's really pretty important to remember. So what is the priority when you're doing a task analysis? Is it that the student works independently and quickly and has all the right answers and it's all product oriented? Or is it possible to look at other areas that can be nurtured and bolstered? And thinking about processing speed skills in these 5 environments, it becomes very clear how sensitive we need to be with students who have slow processing speed skills. And also for those who have very quick processing speed skills where they need to slow down and be more aware of their process. So I'm talking a lot about process and really de-emphasizing product, even though that's scary for many of us because the product is what the grade is based on.